Treasure You is all about renewing women's spirits and inspiring us to share our purpose and power. Pam Cope is here to share with us how an inconceivable personal tragedy led her on an unexpected journey around the world and changed her life forever. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pat.
Welcome. You know what? In 1999, you were a mom just like the rest of us, transporting your kids to baseball practice, ballet practices, and all of a sudden you got a call about your son Jansen. I know it's probably difficult for you to talk about, but tell us what happened.
He had gone to a football camp that morning. He was a healthy 15-year-old, loved sports, and complained of being dizzy. And that was the only symptom. And he had a heart defect that we didn't know anything about. So his first symptom was sudden death. And it's just, you know, the bizarre stories that you read.
So 15-year-old healthy child playing baseball, all of a sudden, he's gone.
Right.
How did you deal with that?
I probably did not paint the perfect picture of grief, but it was just a journey that Randy and I started on, and it's been amazing. It's been ugly at times, but also, you know, we just have found purpose in our life.
Wow, that's what it's all about. And right after you kind of went through that setback of being depressed, I read you were hospitalized. A friend of yours said, hey, I want you to go with me to Vietnam.
Right.
And you went, which I can imagine how you did that. When I'm depressed, I can barely get out of bed. But you went to Vietnam. You adopted 2 kids. What made you do that?
Our oldest daughter, Krista, she was adopted in the U.S., so I already had a passion for adoption. And when we traveled to Vietnam and we were just in orphanages with children that had nobody, and that was just like a whole different perspective of suffering and grief for me. I thought I had the corner on grief, but when I looked at these children that were just so helpless and so abandoned, and Randy and I just knew that we had more love to give, and it was a very scary decision. It was a hard decision.
I mean, but how did your friend, actually convince you to go to Vietnam? I mean, you'd been, of course, depressed, and then all of a sudden, your friend's like, hey, I want you to travel with me. What inspired you to even go in the first place?
We had memorial money from Jansen's death that we were wanting to just really, you know, use, and we were struggling with where are we supposed to use this, and then we had these amazing friends from Arkansas that were building orphanages for orphans, and so we were like, this is maybe where we're supposed to use the memorial money. Right,
but then you're reading a New York Times article a couple of years ago, right? And you read about a 6-year-old child slave in Africa named Mark, who's 6 years old. What went through your mind then, and what did you do about that?
Well, by that point, I had done 2 international adoptions. I had helped a community of people with paperwork, and I realized that, and I realized that, you know, if you set your mind to something and it seems like just this task that's almost impossible, it's like, but I knew that Mark was a child that I was supposed to help. So that was just my feeling, like, I'm supposed to try to help him if I can.
Wow, so you just have this heart, you know, where you see something that needs help and you just jump in, and you just feel like that's your calling and your purpose in life.
I think no, this just didn't happen overnight. It's been a series of like taking those small steps, like taking that trip to Vietnam. I escorted families to Cambodia to adopt their children. So it was like taking small steps. I met children in orphanages that needed medical visas. So I kind of learned, you know, how you work through the government.
Wow. So you took your purpose, because, you know, Treasure You is about finding your purpose. So through traveling around the world and meeting these awesome kids, you turned your tragedy into a purpose. You know, what do you recommend to women who feel like, you know what, there's nothing for me to do, I can't contribute to all the issues? How do you recommend that women take their power and make a difference in our world?
I think you take that first step, and it's like, you know, my journey started a couple of years before Jansen died, and it's like I had that nagging that there was just something more. So it's like, if you're that person that's waking up and you're saying, there's got to be more. It's like, I think as women, we're underestimating ourselves.
Wow.
And, you know, we're just like saying that we're not equipped or we don't have the resources, and it's like we've bought into a lie.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing with us, because I admire you for taking that tragedy, turning it into purpose and power, and that's what Treasure You is about. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
If you were touched by Pam's story of discovering her purpose and renewing her spirit by helping others, please log on to my website, treasureyou.org, and don't forget this week to treasure you.
From the News 8 Weather Center.